And upon his return, Shane has birthed this new thing called Raw Underground. What's up, maniacs? My name is Mex. I am a wrestling fan. I am a wrestling enthusiast. I am a WrestleManiac, if you will. And today we are talking about Raw. Monday Night Raw this week was something special. This may be one of the best Raws we have seen this year, with the introduction of the much talked about Raw Underground. We never knew we were going to get it before tonight, but it is all over the internet since the show has happened. That's all everyone is talking about, Raw Underground. So this is going to be a discussion mainly about Raw Underground, and I will then go through the rest of the show in summary. So stick around if you want to hear more on that. Right here at WrestleManiac UK, I discuss everything that is WWE and AEW. So if this sounds like the place for you, make sure you hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you get notified every time I drop a new video. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's get into the review. So it was either early Monday or over the weekend, we heard that Shane McMahon would be returning to Raw. And upon his return, Shane has birthed this new thing called Raw Underground. It's a bit like a fight pit, just a warehouse looking thing with a ring set up, no ropes, everything black. The aesthetic is really dark and dingy, and it's like a street fight club sort of thing. Like literally, you get in the ring, you fight. It's like winner stays on sort of thing. Like, I think it was really interesting to see. And at first there was a bit of just kind of no-name people in the ring, a couple of NXT developmental wrestlers as well. Shane McMahon was doing like commentary and kind of telling the story of what's going on in the ring. He was a bit like a wacky game show host. I didn't need too much of him. Someone maybe speaking through a tannoy and not being seen so much. It could have been maybe even Shane McMahon speaking through a tannoy, and that coming into that warehouse would have been great. But yeah, I like what they're doing with Raw Underground. It gave me feels of the old kind of Def Jam games, if you remember, where you used to play as rappers and fight each other, and like it had that kind of feel, and you even had women dancing like in there. It was crazy. But yeah, I really like what they're doing with this so far. We saw the debut of Dabba-Kato, formerly known as Babatunde for those that watch NXT and NXT developmental stuff. He was very dominant. I think he beat about 2 people whilst he was on screen during his time during the fights. And then we started to see some wrestlers in the mix. We saw Eric from the Viking Raiders take up the ring. He had gloves on and everything. It was really cool to see. I always used to think his aggressive style in the ring would fit something like this anyway, so it was really good to see him there. And then we saw Dolph Ziggler in the ring also. Obviously Dolph Ziggler is an acclaimed collegiate wrestler, knows his stuff in the ring and mat-based wrestling, so it was good to see him in that kind of environment as well. And then later on in the show, upon being told by Charlie, the interviewer, Hurt Business discovered where this fight pit Raw Underground was and entered and took it under new management. Basically, they have now taken it off Shane McMahon by the looks of things and will be controlling Raw Underground. Now, the minute that they were on screen discussing Raw Underground with Charlie, it popped into my head, why wasn't this the brainchild of MVP in the first place? MVP has been terrific on screen. I know WWE make things as they go along, but they could have made this MVP's idea from the jump, and I think a lot more people would have been invested. You know, I've come back to WWE, I'm working on something in the background. In the foreground, I'm working with Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, etc. But in the background, I'm working on something. Then MVP could have come out with Raw Underground. He already has his mainstream faction, Hurt Business. Raw Underground would then just seem like a general extension of his line of business. The Hurt Business own Raw Underground, where it's just like a underground fight club. I mean, it just writes itself to me now that I think about it. And now that seemingly they have taken charge of it, maybe we might see some ties in between the two. You graduate maybe from the Fight Club into Hurt Business, who knows. But I really think Raw Underground was a really good idea. WWE and following through with ideas, I don't know how long this is going to last. Is this actually going to be embedded into Raw? Is this going to be its own show? Is this going to be a YouTube show? I guess we'll wait and see. But I really enjoyed Raw Underground this week, and I look forward to see what they do with it in the next coming weeks. Before we get into the main review, guys, if you are enjoying today's review, please make sure you hit the thumbs up button and give me a like. It is totally free. I thoroughly appreciate it and it helps this channel so much. So please just take a second out of your time to hit the thumbs up button. So I'm gonna just run through the show like I said and give you the results as well as any main talking points there was. We started with Apollo Crews taking on MVP. Apollo Crews won here. This was a US title match, so Apollo Crews, I guess now we knew it anyway, is the rightful US champion. MVP was very fast to ask for a rematch and that has been granted, so we are gonna get Apollo Crews versus MVP at SummerSlam. Kevin Owens had an episode of the KO show where he got Ruby Riott and the returning Liv Morgan back into the ring, tried to get them to rekindle their friendship. They were interrupted by the Iconics that came out and challenged the two of them to a match, so I guess the Riott Squad were back together, and in their return they actually beat the Iconics with Liv Morgan pinning Billie Kay. So it's going to be very interesting to see now if the Riott Squad are actually a thing, back together and re-entering the women's tag team division. We had a fantastic promo between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. So gripping, you couldn't take your eyes off it. Drew McIntyre spoke so well. Randy Orton came out and said that, yeah, I am all these things that you say. I should have been fired. I'm selfish, this, that and the other, but I am the best. I am the real chosen one, not yourself. Drew McIntyre was saying, you know, while guys like me needed a hand in the back, needed some direction, you, a senior statesman so to speak, didn't care about anyone else but yourself. Drew McIntyre accepted Randy Orton's challenge at SummerSlam and told him, look, the RKO might come out of nowhere, but the Claymore, you're gonna see it coming. Brilliant promo between these two, and I'm so invested in this WWE Championship match that we're going to get at SummerSlam. We had a segment where Nia Jax came out with a WWE official, the WWE official that she attacked and was fined. So I think the official believed that Nia Jax was coming out to make a public apology, which was not the case at all. Nia Jax in fact challenged this guy to a match, showed no remorse, and the WWE official went on to indefinitely suspend Nia Jax. Now, is this being hidden for something else that's going on? I haven't heard of anything behind the scenes that's happened with Nia Jax, so if anybody does know, please drop it down below in the comments. But it looks like Nia Jax is indefinitely suspended from Monday Night Raw. In a triple threat match, we had Shelton Benjamin defending the 24/7 championship against Akira Tozawa and R-Truth. This was a bit of a comedy match. The main story told here was the involvement of Akira Tozawa's ninjas getting involved in the match, and Shelton Benjamin delivered a brilliant powerbomb. Oh my god, why doesn't anyone use the powerbomb as a finisher? Shelton Benjamin's powerbomb to one of these ninjas was absolutely insane. I couldn't believe the impact when the guy hit the canvas. Unfortunately, Shelton Benjamin got so involved with the ninjas, he missed when Akira Tozawa delivered a senton onto R-Truth and pinned him, and Akira Tozawa is now the 24/7 champion. In what on paper should have been a really good and interesting match, Sasha Banks and Shayna Baszler ended in a no contest. Now, I'm going to get onto that in a second. Shayna Baszler backstage literally came along, interrupted an interview that Bayley and Sasha Banks was having and hit Sasha Banks straight in the mouth. Looked like a serious punch. Sasha Banks then obviously, like I say, went on to have a match with Shayna Baszler later on in the night. Asuka came out and attacked Bayley and the match was ruled as a no contest. Bayley wasn't in the match, so why did the bell ring? Asuka later got into the ring and attacked Sasha Banks, but at the time, she hadn't. Shayna and Asuka were then after the match kind of jostling for the position of #1 contender for the Raw Women's Championship, and then Sasha later came back out and told Asuka, look, if you want to face me for the Raw Women's Champion, you are going to have to take on a former NXT champion, one of the 4 horsewomen, and at this point I guess all signs were pointing to Shayna Baszler as a former NXT champion and as a horsewoman, but no, Sasha Banks was referring to her friend Bayley. Bayley versus Asuka next week, and if Asuka wins, Asuka takes on Sasha Banks for the Raw Women's Championship at SummerSlam. I'm guessing Asuka is going to win, and hopefully we actually get a finish to Sasha Banks versus Asuka at SummerSlam. We had Angel Garza take on Angelo Dawkins in a singles match, which was going to be followed by Montez Ford taking on Andrade. Now, everything was going well in this match, but towards the finish, Montez Ford was just outside the ring, minding his own business when he dropped to the ground. Angelo Dawkins, obviously concerned about his tag team partner, went to have a look at him, got distracted, and Angel Garza was able to take advantage and win the match. Montez Ford later recovered for his match against Andrade, got into the ring, and again everything was looking good. And then as Montez Ford went to grab the ropes and do his Ultimate Warrior kind of taunt where he shakes the ropes and goes crazy, he lost consciousness again and fell to the floor. The referee called for the stop of the match and the match was ruled as a non-contest. Now obviously this wasn't real. The fact that they were recording it, this wasn't something that was actually happening to Montez Ford, this was active. So let's just get that straight. But it was really interesting to see what had gone wrong with Montez Ford. Later on backstage, we saw Andrade, Zelina and Angel Garza near the doctor's trainer's door, trying to show some type of concern for what had happened to Montez Ford. Angelo Dawkins came out from the room and was basically saying that he'll be okay, but it looks like he's been poisoned. Everyone, of course, shock horror, like poison? Like how did he get poisoned? Bianca Belair comes out from the doctor trainer's room, clapping her hands, crazy as ever. Listen, Zelina, I know you're the brains behind all of this. I know you must have been behind Montez getting poisoned. Don't lie to me. Tell me the truth. What's gone on? There was a bit of a pull apart brawl between Zelina Vega and Bianca Belair, so that might turn into something later on down the road. But yeah, Montez Ford not in a good way going into the SummerSlam match where we're gonna have the Street Profits defending the tag team championship against Angel Garza and Andrade. There was a theme running through Raw where there was a bit of technical difficulties. Microphones were cutting out, lights were cutting out, and we were trying to find out why during the show, until we had a segment where we saw 5 people setting alight something that looked like electrical boxes and then running away from the scene. So I'm guessing this was the new faction that had been previously teased. We are yet to find out the identities of who these people are, but something interesting coming out of Raw. The Monday Night Messiah took to the ring. Seth Rollins was calling out Tom Phillips on commentary, saying that you were laughing at me when Dominic Mysterio was attacking me and Murphy last week. That's not journalism, that's not being on the fence, and now you are against the greater good. This was really well delivered by Seth Rollins, and Tom Phillips looked shook. And just as Seth Rollins was telling Murphy, look, go and snatch Tom Phillips from behind that commentary desk, Samoa Joe stood up to defend his honor, to defend his friend. Now, if you remember, this has happened before. I think around the inception of Seth Rollins being this whole messiah and doing this gimmick, Samoa Joe then was on commentary before he got injured again and was standing up for somebody before he got back into the ring. So it was really interesting to see Samoa Joe look like he's gonna get back in the ring. He didn't quite on this episode, but definitely defended Tom Phillips and gave Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy something to think about. But just as it looked like Samoa Joe would enter the ring, Dominic Mysterio again with the kendo stick. This boy loves a kendo stick. Came out and attacked Seth Rollins and Murphy. Seth Rollins said enough is enough. You want a match at SummerSlam, you've got it. So we are going to get Dominic Mysterio versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. Imagine your first WWE match is at SummerSlam against someone as brilliant as Seth Rollins. I just love Dominic Mysterio in the ring. He just reminds me of any one of us young people that just want to be a wrestler or just want to try it out, see what it's like. The way he runs around the ring is so chaotic. His 619 is not as smooth as his dad's, but he tried nonetheless. He jumped on top of the top rope, jumped on Rollins and Murphy. He just looks like he's having a brilliant time. And I am quite interested in seeing the kind of match he's going to put on versus Seth Rollins. So guys, that is my Raw review for this week. Again, it was heavily focused around this Raw Underground. I can't wait to see how they're going to take this. I really hope they don't drop the ball on it. It did seem to inject some life into Raw this week and made the 3 hours a bit more enjoyable. So I hope, like I say, they look after this new little baby that they've created. Whether it's going to remain in Raw or be its own show, we're yet to see. But definitely putting the Hurt Business at the center of something called Raw Underground, which is a fight club, makes total sense to me. Guys, if you enjoyed today's show, please make sure you leave a thumbs up, give me a like. Like I say, it is free and does the channel wonders. I thoroughly appreciate it. And if you're new here, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you get notified every time I drop a new video. WrestleManiac UK signing out, and I'll see you soon.